I've gotten a few DMs over on my TikTok of people asking for philosophy book recommendations if they're only just starting to get into philosophy. I've handpicked some philosophical books which I absolutely adore, which I also think have engaging and accessible language for people who might not have studied philosophy before. So let's jump straight into the recommendations. The first book I always recommend to people is Seneca's On the Shortness of Life, as this is actually the book which made me fall head over heels in love with philosophy. It's only 30 pages and you can find it for free on the Internet Archive as a PDF, so there's literally nothing from stopping you reading it right this very moment. Seneca, a Roman Stoic and a tutor to Emperor Nero, talks about how to find meaning in our incredibly short lives. So if you're feeling existential dread or a dizzying fear of dying, Seneca is there for you. My favourite thing about On the Shortness of Life is that Seneca's writing is so engaging but also easy to follow. And be warned, he does play on your heartstrings. The first time I read On the Shortness of Life, I was on a plane and I started bawling my eyes out in front of everybody, so make sure to grab a tissue before you start reading. But let me read an excerpt to give you an idea of his writing. "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. When it is wasted in heedless luxury and spent on no good activity, we are forced at last by death's final constraint to realize that it has passed away before we knew it was passing. Life is long if you know how to use it." Now luckily, by showing this interest in philosophy, Seneca says we're on the right track to living a meaningful life. As he puts it in On the Shortness of Life, "Of all people, they alone who give their time to philosophy are at leisure, they alone really live. For it's not just their own lifetime that they watch over carefully, but they annex every age to their own. None of the philosophers will diminish your years, but each will share his own years with you." It's so good. I'll be here for the next few hours, read On the Shortness of Life, and get back to me with your thoughts. I'm gonna start crying again. Moving on. Let's move on. I love when philosophers actually live their philosophies. Hannah Arendt, a German Jewish philosopher, went through harrowing experiences. She survived the Nazis, having been arrested and escaping the Gestapo. And after all that, she wrote some of the sharpest political theory ever. Eichmann in Jerusalem, her report on Adolf Eichmann's trial in 1961, was a revelatory piece when first published and has only become more timely. Eichmann was a Nazi bureaucrat who was in charge of organizing mass deportations to concentration camps. When Arendt went to see his trial, she expected to see a monster. I mean, imagine going to see someone who is a key figure in uprooting your entire life. And so in the report, she expresses her shock when she sees that Eichmann is just a plain, boring, ordinary man who was just following orders. Arendt argued that a person's ordinariness and thoughtlessness is what makes these crimes even more frightening, as it shows how systems can successfully enable such evil and evil acts when people stop thinking critically. The writing is journalistic and gripping, and while I find all of Arendt's work great, Eichmann in Jerusalem is an accessible introduction. Reading it today is especially important with rising authoritarianism all over the world. And Arendt makes us question, how do we stay morally awake? Mary Wollstonecraft is often referred to as the founder of feminism. Though feminism was not a term in the 1790s, which is when she was writing, her work paved the way for future feminists. In her book, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, you can tell that she was truly ahead of her time. You can feel the frustration in her voice as she writes, and she's very sarcastic, which also makes it a fun read. To give you an idea of what she was writing about, Wollstonecraft pointed out that while the 1700s was the height of enlightenment, with all these debates happening about liberty, reason, and rights, women were still being largely excluded from social and political life. In the book, she argues that women only come across as inferior to men because they lack the same education and opportunity. And this was a revelatory thought at the time where most people, including women, truly believed that women were the inferior sex. Regardless of who you are, this book is a reminder of how much women fought to have the rights that they have today. It's also a reminder of how valuable those rights are and how much we have to fight to defend them. Meditations is Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius's personal diary, which got leaked. If that didn't sell you already, I don't know what will. In this total invasion of privacy, Meditations has become one of the most famous books in the Western world. And it is so fun to read. Gossip? Yeah, it's there. Shade thrown at almost everybody around him in every single entry. But at the same time, Meditations covers a whole range of relatable topics. And he explores those topics in a way that gets you really thinking about your own life and your outlook. I can guarantee there's at least one message for every single person in Meditation. Aurelius's own philosophy, stoicism, is prevalent throughout, as he shows how he and we can handle challenges with reason and grace. Divided into short entries, Meditations is an incredibly chill read. Pick it up, read an entry or two, ponder it for the day, and then repeat. Or, what will most likely happen, read them all in one sitting. Probably every philosophy student I've ever met has read Sophie's World. It is the introductory book to philosophy. Oftentimes they say, yeah, Sophie's World was the book that made me want to study philosophy at school. Jostein Gaarder is a Norwegian author, not a professional philosopher. But in 1991, he wrote Sophie's World, which is pretty much an overview of the entire history of philosophy. The story follows the life of a teenage girl, Sophie, who starts receiving mysterious letters in the mail which introduce her to different philosophy. From Plato to Kant to Sartre, this book covers so much ground. At the same time, there's a bigger mystery unfolding as to who Sophie really is. It's easy to follow and fun to read, and I think is the perfect entry into philosophy for people of all ages. So those are my racks. I would love to hear if you're going to be checking out any of those books, or if you've read them already, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments.